Welcome to the Moonshot Podcast, the podcast where we explore business growth, inspire innovative marketing strategies, and explore the world of company culture. Now here are your hosts, serial entrepreneurs and best-selling authors, James Philip Arbuckle and Kane Carpenter.
So you happy to have this book done?
Oh yeah. How was it writing it for you?
You know, if you think about the process of getting Moonshot, which was originally another book we kind of spun into this book, we hurry up and got the 3 chapters done and pitched it to the book agents and whatnot. And then, we got busy with work and life, and then, we had that little window, and we're like, yeah, we got about 20 days, let's go. So, you remember, it's like you're getting emails at midnight and you're sending them back at 2 a.m. and to try to get 80,000 words done in about 20 days. I was happy to be done with it. So.
Yeah.
What about your side?
Yeah, I feel exactly the same. It feels nice to have done it. And I think writing a book for me is one of those things. I didn't think I would ever do it. So I'm really happy that we did it.
Yeah, this is the 5th or 6th time I've done it. It's just going to be the first one. It's just the first one that's going on the shelf. It's, if you look back at the process, though, we have so much going on that we knew if we didn't get it done basically in that month, it was not going to get done. But looking back, I could see why people take a year or two to write a book. And, we had all this information on the top of our heads. And it's things we do every day. We got, 2 decades of consulting and business and entrepreneurship and finance and culture, HR. It was a brain dump. And so it wasn't extremely difficult, but looking back, if we could just take a year next time, that might be a little more fun.
Yeah, that makes sense. I am proud of the insights that we've brought to the table here. You're right. This is stuff that we do every single day. So this is the stuff that we know works. So you're right. It wasn't that hard to actually put together once you kind of get going, thinking about the things that work for clients and things every single day.
I mean, I don't want to say it was easy, but you learn when you're working with publishers and the process and the editing and all these things that go into creating a book. It's time consuming. It's kind of annoying. And you know why they say, plan, if you want to publish a book, it's going to take, 12 or 18 months to wrap it up, edit it, do all this stuff. And then there's like PR, and it's not easy, but it's doable. We've proven you can do it in 20 days or less.
Yeah. It's like a bad rom-com.
We're like that Christmas movie on Hallmark Channel.
Yeah.
They're going to pump a new one out every year. But, for the people tuning in, we're going to do a series like this covering each chapter of Moonshot to give some other anecdotal and some additional stories and all those things that we couldn't fit into the 300 pages. Kane, we did almost 80,000 words. If we had a year more, how much more do you think we could add to that?
Oh, it would be an encyclopedia, wouldn't it? Be chapter or what do you call those? Like book after book after book, like an encyclopedia.
Yeah, and no one wants to read that, especially right. It's
right.
We live in the Twitter world, man. I'm reading 140 characters at a time. That's we kept it reasonable. Right? It's a respectable business book size, but now we can do this. And it can be perpetual content because business never stops. There'll always be a new issue for us to talk about, a new business or strategy or model that we'll be able to dissect and talk about. So this gives us the opportunity to add a whole bunch of stuff without having to sell someone an encyclopedia.
I agree. It'll also give us the chance to explore topics outside of what we explored in the book, right? Like things like current events and what's the big news business story of the week. We'll be able to talk about this stuff on this platform too.
Definitely not limited to the chapters in the book, and it made me think of one of my favorite commercials, that Adobe one, where they're printing encyclopedias like crazy. It was a Super Bowl commercial. And then the encyclopedia CEO is like, "We're back." And it's just a kid on an iPad who keeps hitting order.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's jump into chapter 1.
All right. Chapter 1 in Moonshot is on employer branding deception. Why don't you run us through the main idea here, James?
I look back at, I'm thinking what I even wrote for that one. I think I talked about the catfishing aspect of how companies will paint a picture of what it's like to work here. And it's always, people at the ping pong table, and they're at the kegerator, and they got the nap pods, like the big tech companies and stuff. And you start thinking like, wow, this must be an amazing place to work. It's like Dave and Buster's, but a job. And, you get there, and, one of two things happens, right? You get there, and it really is, you just play all day and you don't get any work done, and then you get fired. Or you get there and you realize, no, it's actually a hell of a lot of work, and it's nothing like the photos. And it's why not just be kind of straightforward and say it is work hard, play hard. Yes, we have the kegerator and the ping pong table, but that's for when we actually get our work done, right? And I'm sure you've seen some cases where companies have, branded themselves a certain way to attract somebody. I can't, if I'm a single dude and I'm, acting like I'm wealthy, and then I get a date, and then she finds out I'm broke, how's that go?
Right.
It's not going to work. So there needs to be more honesty, I guess, in the employer branding side for some of these companies. And look, some of the big tech companies can get away with this stuff. And it is true. It's like, yeah, come nap in the nap pod, right? But there's probably 95% of other companies in the country just don't have that luxury of saying, hey, go take a nap whenever you want. It's not realistic if you're working in manufacturing or a warehouse or in hospitality, right? There is no nap pod for the front desk person at Marriott. So
yeah,
can companies, you have some examples of that.
Sure. We work with clients on stuff like this all the time, making sure that their messaging aligns with what they actually are as an employer. But I'll throw this out there, and you correct me if I'm wrong, James, but I think COVID or that period that triggered the labor shortage, and the labor shortage, of course, was something that was pre-pandemic, was a trend that was pre-pandemic. But when we saw that, companies couldn't find talent, I think the natural thing would be to start to get a little bit desperate. And if demand is up, everybody's got all this money from the stimulus. How do we make sure that we're servicing our clients? And the natural tendency, I think, is to then say, okay, well, we're just going to say almost whatever it's going to take to get people through the door, without thinking of the long-term consequence of doing that. And I don't want to pick on an industry, but I know as a consultant myself, the management consulting industry did that. Right? We talk about this often, James, but the idea that Fred is in Portugal on a Thursday afternoon, and that's the only thing that a big consulting firm is showcasing on their social media. Well, that's not exactly true to what the experience probably is 98% of the time working there, right? It's 80-hour weeks. It's taking a call at 11 p.m. because you've got a client in Asia. There's nothing wrong with being true to or authentic, to your point, to who you are as a company, because every company, I think, has attributes that are attractive to a certain cohort of workers, and it's just about tapping into those. So that's at least my perspective on the topic.
I'm gonna change my name to Fred because I want to be in Portugal on a Thursday afternoon. But that's it's hey, here's April and Johnny on the beach at 9 a.m. on a Thursday with their child, and again they're painting this picture of work-life balance. And I think most people that got to a certain level in life realize that there is no perfect work-life balance where you get exactly what you want every day. Every day is a give and take. But they're really painting a picture of taking all the time. And well, then you get there and you realize, well, it's not really realistic for me to be on the beach at 9:00 on a Thursday. I have a client call, or I'm going to be on site at a client, for example. And that's not saying they don't have work from home days, but we talk about the monolithic marketing aspect where everything that's outward facing isn't just for on the employer branding side. It's not just for your people, but your clients are seeing that. So when I'm looking at that, I'm thinking, well, if April and Johnny's on the beach at 9:00 in the morning, who's working on my account?
Yeah.
And that's something I've experienced since COVID. It's if you're calling people, trying to get someone to answer the damn phone is nearly impossible. If you leave a voicemail or email, they don't call you back until the next day. And that whole customer service experience is pretty poor. And it's like things are either going to change or there's going to be certain companies who get back to business and they're going to win. Because at some point, I'm not waiting. And, what are consultants charging these days? $500, $600, $700 an hour? Look, if I'm paying you guys these like massive retainers every month, you better return my goddamn call back relatively quickly, right?
Yeah.
So there is a cost with this image they're selling. So whether they live it or not, how sustainable is that? Maybe it is for these companies that are like $20 billion. But I think this podcast is also for, and the book is for, everyone who doesn't have $100 billion of liquid cash in the bank that, it's easy. Google, I don't remember. I think Google used to say you could take 20% of your week to work on something else. Right. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
I could be screwing that up. It may not be Google. It might not be 20%, but there is somebody in the tech world out there who had just, metric tons of cash sitting in the trunks, and they would say something like, hey, you could take 20% to work on different ideas and projects or whatever. And obviously I'm ad-libbing here. But Kane, who has that luxury to let their employees take 20% of their time to do things that 98% of companies don't have that luxury. 99% of companies don't have that luxury. But, we look at that stuff and go, hey, maybe we should model our environment after that. I'm like, what you need to do is model yourself after a company that's got $100 billion in cash in terms of the cash, right? Like how about you get the money in the bank? Otherwise, how do you really afford to lose like 20% of your productivity, for example?
No, absolutely right. We did the napkin math once, right? I think someone like Apple has enough free cash on hand to cover their operations for 5-6 years without selling another thing. Right? And for most companies in the world, that's just not feasible. It's just not real. And I think that's why I enjoyed writing this book, is to give people or readers just this perspective on, to your point, James, let's not hold our benchmark as the biggest tech firms in the world when we're 50, 100, 200, 500 people. Let's do real things that have an actual tangible effect on our culture and our employer brand, and attract the right workers to our company to do great work every single day, and not have this kind of far-fetched benchmark that's just not feasible. It's just not real.
Yeah, it's real for somebody, just not most people.
Right. Yeah,
and,
that's a good point.
I do believe it's still okay to say, look, we work hard here. This is going to be you're going to work 40 hours. There's no bench time. And there's an old study out there that says the average American worker only has about 23 hours of real work to do. But, the way things are set up, we pay for 40 hours, you get benefits, and that's kind of how we are set up culturally. As far as like real productive work, it's about 23 hours on average. Salespeople, though, for example, tend to fill their full 40 hours up because it's a metric-driven kind of job where you're banging phones all day. Well, that's 40 hours of work. But for everything else, it's, why can't you just say you're going to work 40 hours, of real work, and some weeks might be 45, 48 hours. This is the place people come to learn a lot, get mentored, to build a career, to make a name for yourself. And that's the type of people you're trying to attract, I hope, right, Kane?
Hopefully, yeah.
Versus, hey, it's beer kegerator ping pong nap pod, beach on Thursday, Portugal on Tuesday. If you're going to sell someone on the concepts of everything but work, well, don't get mad when they come in and don't work. They're doing exactly what you sold them on. And you're also attracting the people who are more interested in doing everything but work. And then we're like, why aren't you working? So
yeah,
imagine if we had these honest conversations, like, this is the environment, this is our culture, this is where we're trying to go. These are the type of people we want to be on our team. And if that's not you, that's okay. But this is who we're looking for. And somewhere along the lines, if that is who you are culturally, you're going to be better off attracting the people that want to come, put in 40, 45 hours, that are trying to build a name. That's probably going to lower your turnover and just make your culture better all the way around.
Agreed. Well, really well said. Really well said. And the beauty of that too is that, let's say you don't attract the people that are ideal to that work culture that you've developed, you've at least set the expectations clear up front, such that you can have better conversations on the backside. So really well said, Jim.
Well, I hope I say it as good in chapter 2 too, right? So
you do. The next chapter is on gang mentality, which is a really interesting topic.
I feel like that was probably a topic I came up with.
No doubt.
So, hey, who would write a chapter about gang mentality? Oh, James. So, well, we'll close this one out and look forward to having you guys on chapter 2.